Hey, welcome. We got on the line. We got Mr. Bob Bailey is back with us. Bob, welcome. Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning to you. I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. For those of you who don't know, Bob is a Republican. He's a state Senate candidate for the special election of District 16, which is up in the Russellville area. And I know it actually is a pretty large district, Bob. We've talked about it before. How's the campaign going since we last talked?
I think it's doing really well. I've been amazed at the show of support, and I'm hearing a lot of positive things everywhere we're going. So, you know, everybody seems like they're on the same page. Everybody's a little bit disgruntled, not happy about the way things are going, and hopefully we can change that with a grassroots effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, I've been talking just about this, establishment. They always are going to have a candidate. And, we asked you the last time you were on if you were that candidate, and you denied it. We had political activist, also member of the Pope County Republican Committee, Lane Scott. He was on the program last hour singing your praises, saying that, you're a straight talker and you independent thinker and you're not going to allow. He actually said that you can smell the skunk without actually having to see the skunk, which means that, you're not going to be tricked, fooled, or bullied at the Marble Palace. And so that's very refreshing. I thought it was good to hear from him.
Yeah, Lane's a good dude. I like him.
Yeah.
He's about as solid as they come right there.
Yeah, he really is, and he's been a friend of mine for a couple of years now, and friend of the program. Hey, so let's just get right to it. Okay. Steve Bronner, he wrote a piece over at Talk Business and Politics over at talkbusiness.net that highlighted you and your two other opponents, Breann Davis and Luke Heffley. They're the other Republicans that are vying in this primary. Their positions on what has become a defining policy for the state of Arkansas, because it affects everything we want to do, from tax cuts, to budgeting, everything, which is, Arkansas Works, Obamacare, which is, Asa Hutchinson thinks needs to continue. The two other candidates, your opponents, they said that they support the status quo, indicated that things are fine the way they are, according to the article. You said, no, you're the only one that is taking a very anti-establishment view on this issue. Talk about that.
The more I read about this thing, the more I learn about it, the more it looks like a big government scam to me. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's some provisions in here that are ridiculous. I don't think it should be the function of government to even be in health care. I think it's unconstitutional. I think that the whole Obamacare itself, the way it was passed, was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court ruling on this so that it could be pushed as that was wrong. Anytime you have to rename a program because the name of it is toxic to most people, I mean, to me, that's a deceptive practice. And as such, I would be in favor of totally and completely eliminating the whole program. This thing here was funded by the feds for 3 years. They came out and they said, and it looks to me like, now, this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, it looks to me like the roll was padded with as many people as they could get so they could draw more money from the federal government. And now, 3 years later, that we don't have it, they're shucking off tens of thousands of candidates because now all of a sudden we've got to pay for it. I see this thing as an endless money pit. It's unsustainable. I think if we don't get rid of this pretty quick, it's never going to go away. It's going to get progressively worse. We're going to have to put more and more into it. And, of course, what's going to happen with that? They're going to have to start pulling taxes out of other programs. And then the big call is, oh, my God, we need to have more taxes to pay for this. And I'm just not about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they already attempted that with a lot of tax increases. Some they passed, some they proposed from Republicans last year. We're talking with Bob Bailey, Senate candidate Republican for District 16. You mentioned the phrase politically toxic. Now, Bob, I don't know if you heard in 2015 the governor's speech at UAMS on the private option. but you guys can go back and look at it. It's on YouTube. But he actually used that phrase. He said that it had become politically toxic, the phrase private option. And you just said something I thought was so candid and so refreshing. You're saying anytime you have to rename a program because it's politically toxic, and Asa said it was politically toxic, that is a form of deception. I completely agree with you, sir.
You know, there are some good people that I have talked to in the last few days that were for this program. And the people that I know that were for the program, when you show them the facts, when you show them what's actually happened, they actually get enraged. They feel violated. I think there's a lot of good people out there that think, okay, you know, this isn't so bad. Arkansas works. It's a good thing for people that can't get any kind of health care. But the more you delve into it, and it's not hard to see, the more it becomes apparent that this thing is completely and totally ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And then you have to come to the question, why? Why is this something being done by the government? You know, one of the tenets of socialism is to completely control all the health care. And you have to wonder where all this is coming from.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I also would add, you know, there appears to be political calculations involved here. You mentioned that, and you're right. I mean, I really appreciate your grasp of this. You are right about how they padded the rolls. When the feds were paying everything, they're able to tax the insurance companies. So every policy that the federal government pays for, the state of Arkansas is actually making money and double tax. It's basically kind of like they're double dipping. They're taking the feds' dollars, but then they're getting they're sweetening the pot on that premium tax. So they have incentive to pad the rolls, and now that we have to pay, so there are two factors here. Now that we're having to pay, okay, we'll start to trim the rolls, number one. But number two, I'll announce that we're trimming the rolls right before a primary. I'll spin the headlines to make it seem like, oh, all of a sudden I'm Mr. Big Bad Conservative that believes in smaller welfare programs, and it's just you really, and I know I'm a skeptic, but the timing of this, the manipulation of this, is for political gain. It's so Governor Asa Hutchinson can retain power because he does have this primary opponent in Jan Morgan.
Yeah, funny how it happens like that, isn't
it? Yeah, right. I mean, it's power is very tempting thing. People want to hold on to it at all costs. I certainly I've seen a lot in my limited time, covering all of this, and I will just tell you that I think the average Arkansan maybe doesn't realize what a competitive disadvantage people who don't want to use power to lord over someone else, like we people who just want to be left alone, put their nose to the grindstone and work. A lot of those folks don't actually end up down there. The people who end up down there are the ones who can't create for themselves, so they would rather pass laws to take from those who are doing the things they can't do. And I know that, again, is a skeptical view, but that is just, I feel like, the human condition. And so it's really it's a gem when we get an honest person down there.
Well, there's two things that really stuck out on me in this thing as I researched it. And one was the 2.5% tax on insurance premiums imposed by the state. Why? If you're trying to help people with a program, why are we putting a 2.5% tax on insurance premiums? Who thinks this stuff up? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And another is that, we got to pay 5% of the premiums. A lot of people don't know that in 2 years that rises to 10%. How much money is that going to be if you look at the big picture for us to have to come up with on a program that's unsustainable? And it's just going to get progressively worse and worse and worse as time goes by. If we don't kill this thing, do something about it pretty quick.
Yeah. So let me ask.
It's going to affect every area of our lives.
Yeah, you kind of already mentioned this. I think I know where you're going to go. But, I mean, do you think health care is a right, Bob?
No, I do not. Where Where in the Constitution does it state that you have a right to health care?
Do you think that there are Republicans that are starting to, I mean, do you think there are Republicans in Arkansas that believe that it should be, or that it is in fact a right, or you know, they're motivated maybe out of good intentions and compassion, but do you think it's just like, okay, we need to, you know, Obama got it done, we just are going to have to embrace this new mantle, this new federal edict that, hey, this is now a right in this country?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. You know, several weeks ago, before I really got started into this thing, I heard a term that I had never heard, progressive Republican. And I think that my first thought was, are you kidding me? You guys are sitting on the wrong side of the aisle. But I've actually met a few of them, and yes, I actually do believe that they think that is a right. But now, with that being said, most of them are younger people. They hadn't been around as long. They tend to be a little bit idealistic. And fact of the matter is, we hadn't been teaching any kind of real history in schools in years. Mm-hmm. And I think all this revisionist history stuff is finally catching up. And the people who learn that are now assuming positions of authority, you know, in government and town councils, mayors, senators, representatives, all walks of life. And we are just now beginning to see people that actually believe that, hey, you know what, this is a right and this is a function of government, because they never learned otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, we just got a text message from a listener. We have Dave writing in. I love this guy. Who is he again? Okay, so we're talking with Bob Bailey, who is a state Senate candidate for District 16. That is the Russellville area. And beyond. I mean, it's a big district you guys are running for. It's a special election in here in a couple of weeks, trying to fill the seat of the late Senator Greg Standridge, who tragically passed away after a battle with cancer. Yeah, Bob, I mean, you're really firing on all cylinders here. What do you think? What's important? What's important to the people of your district? What do you think?
I think that this Medicaid fiasco is a big concern. I think some people are really disappointed in some of the bills that have been presented that never saw the light of day. I'll give you an example. Truth in title on a bill. Think about that. You present a bill, and the title is supposed to tell you what's in the bill. Now, explain to me why something like that would not see the light of day.
So you're talking about, okay, so you're talking about a proposed bill to make sure that whatever is in the title is actually what the bill says, so no more deceptive ballot titles or bill titles.
Now, when you have a bill that's as simple as that doesn't make it out there on the floor, doesn't see the light of day, that to me indicates that we got a pretty serious problem down there when something as simple as that will not pass. You look at another bill was disclosure on who you were dealing with when you were voting on specific issues, you know, which some of them are downright conflict of interest, you know. Mm-hmm. That got killed. I thought that was a good bill. To me, there's a certain amount of deceit right there, even when you come up with a bill like that says, hey, we just want to know who's on the sides lobbying with you and what their intent is, how they want to vote on these bills. It's a transparency issue. That never saw the light of day. We've got issues with government officials that won't do what they're told to do. They won't do their job. I'm not going to mention any names, but, well, I'll give you an example on this. Arkansas is technically a constitutional carry state, right?
Yes.
So technically you don't have to have a permit to carry either openly or concealed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that the way you understand it?
That's the way I understand it.
Okay, now what is so hard about that? Why does every single police chief in this state, every police officer, why do they not know that? Why are we strong in some areas and weak in others? Mm-hmm. When all that's got to be done is the governor to say, okay, we are a constitutional carry state. A permit is no longer required to either openly carry or concealed carry, but he didn't come out and say that, did he?
No, he didn't.
And all he did was muddy up the waters with that kind of silliness.
Yeah.
When anybody with a fifth-grade education can read the Constitution and see what it is,
that's good stuff.
I'm hearing all kinds of hate and discontent with the way things are happening.
And those are really good. I think sample of issues. They certainly know what's going on. Bob Bailey, we are out of time. I appreciate you coming on. It's always a pleasure. Keep us posted about the campaign, and I know the election's coming up in a couple of weeks, and so good luck to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Paul, good talking to you, and thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Oh, and